The rain felt like ice against my skin as I ran across the parking lot, my thin uniform soaked through in seconds. The late shift at Lorenzo's had been brutal. 12 hours on my feet, endless demands from impatient customers, and a measly $60 in tips, not nearly enough for what I needed. I fumbled with my keys, the parking lot's flickering lights casting eerie shadows across the cracked asphalt. Most employees parked in the back lot, hidden from the restaurant's polished facade. Lorenzo's catered to people who didn't look twice at servers like me. People with money, power, and the luxury of forgetting faces. "Come on," I muttered, my fingers numb from cold as I struggled with the stubborn lock of my ancient Honda. A car door slammed somewhere behind me, the sound echoing between the buildings. I tensed, suddenly aware of how alone I was. Working late shifts in this part of the city wasn't smart, especially for women. But beggars can't be choosers. Not when you have a 4-year-old daughter depending on you, and medical bills piling up faster than autumn leaves. The first gunshot cracked through the air like thunder. I dropped to the ground instinctively, keys clattering away across the wet asphalt. My heart hammered against my ribs as more shots followed. 3, 4, in rapid succession. Shouting erupted, men's voices harsh against the steady drumming of rain. I should have crawled under my car. Should have made myself smaller. Invisible. That's what sensible people do when bullets start flying. But I've never claimed to be sensible. Instead, I peered around my tire toward the source of the chaos. 20 yards away, near the service entrance, stood a cluster of black SUVs with tinted windows. Car doors hung open, interior lights illuminating the rain in golden halos. Between the vehicles, dark figures moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. That's when I saw him. Even in the chaos, he stood perfectly still, a dark statue amid the storm. Tall and broad-shouldered, wearing what looked like a tailored suit beneath an open overcoat, the amber parking lot lights caught his profile. Sharp jawline, straight nose, dark hair cut close at the sides. His face remained calm, almost detached, as men in suits swarmed around him like protective bees around their queen. I recognized him instantly. Everyone who worked at Lorenzo's knew Dante Russo. He didn't come often, perhaps once a month, but when he did, the entire restaurant transformed. The manager himself served his table. The chef prepared special dishes not on the menu, and staff whispered warnings to each other. Don't stare, don't linger, don't make mistakes. He owned half the city, people said, though nobody specified which half. The criminal half, I'd always assumed. Another shot rang out, this one closer. One of Russo's men crumpled to the ground. Through gaps between cars, I glimpsed figures moving along the edge of the building, dark shapes with guns raised, an ambush. "Get him in the car, now!" someone shouted. Russo's men closed ranks around him, trying to guide him to the nearest SUV, but they were exposed, caught in the open between vehicles. Another shot, another man down. The security detail was thinning. I should have stayed hidden. Should have kept my head down and prayed the bullets didn't find me. My daughter needed me. Lily needed me alive, not brave. But there was something in Russo's expression as he looked toward one of his fallen men. A flicker of genuine concern, so at odds with everything I'd heard about him. And then his eyes lifted, meeting mine across the distance. Recognition flashed in those dark eyes. He knew me. The waitress who had served his table last month, who had accidentally spilled water on his companion and apologized profusely while he watched with something almost like amusement. Just for a moment our gazes locked, and an inexplicable current passed between us. A red laser dot appeared on his chest. I don't know why I moved. There was no thought, no decision, just pure instinct. Maybe it was because I was tired of watching people die in senseless violence. Maybe it was because, despite everything I'd heard about Dante Russo, no one deserved to be gunned down in a parking lot. Or maybe I simply acted on the same reckless impulse that had guided so many of my life's worst decisions. I pushed myself up and ran. My feet slipped on the wet asphalt as I charged across the open space between us. Someone shouted. A warning, a curse, I couldn't tell. Russo's eyes widened as I approached, confusion replacing his usual composure. I threw myself forward just as the shot rang out, colliding with his solid form, pushing him sideways. A sudden, searing pain exploded in my shoulder, the force spinning me around. Warmth spread down my side. too hot against the cold rain. The world tilted oddly, concrete rushing up to meet me. Strong arms caught me before I hit the ground. Through a haze of pain, I looked up into Dante Russo's face, no longer impassive, but twisted with shock and something that might have been anger. His mouth moved, but the words sounded distant, underwater. "Why would you do that?" he demanded, his voice finally breaking through the strange buzzing in my ears. I tried to answer, but my lips felt numb, uncooperative. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Behind him, his men were returning fire, creating a protective circle around us. Someone was barking orders into a phone. The last thing I remember was being lifted, the scent of expensive cologne and rainwater filling my senses, and the strange warmth of Russo's breath against my ear as he murmured, "Stay with me. Don't you dare die for me, girl." Then darkness swallowed everything. I woke to the soft beeping of machines and the antiseptic smell of hospital rooms, a scent I knew too well from Lily's treatments. Pain throbbed dully in my left shoulder, muted by what must have been powerful painkillers. I blinked against harsh fluorescent lights, trying to orient myself. This wasn't a normal hospital room, too spacious, too private, with expensive-looking furniture and no other patients. A large window revealed a skyline view I didn't recognize. We were high up, maybe 15 or 20 floors. "You're awake." The voice came from my right, smooth, cultured, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't place. I turned my head, wincing at the stiffness in my neck. Dante Russo sat in a leather chair beside my bed, his posture relaxed, yet somehow still commanding. He'd changed his suit for a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing strong forearms and the edge of what looked like a tattoo disappearing beneath the fabric. Despite the late hour, the sky outside was dark. He appeared perfectly put together. "Where am I?" My voice came out as a rasp. "Private medical facility." He leaned forward slightly. "The bullet missed anything vital, but you lost blood. The doctor says you'll recover fully." Memory flooded back. The parking lot, the gunshots, the searing pain. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it, gasping as fire shot through my shoulder. "Don't." His hand moved toward me, but stopped short of touching me. "You'll tear the stitches. My daughter." I managed through gritted teeth. "Lily. She's with Mrs. Patel, my neighbor. But I need to call. It's been taken care of." Russo's expression remained unreadable. "Mrs. Patel has been informed you had an accident at work and are receiving medical care. Your daughter is fine." The casual way he mentioned my neighbor's name sent a chill down my spine. "How do you know about Mrs. Patel?" A slight lift of his eyebrow. "I make it my business to know about people who save my life, Miss Walker." He knew my name. Of course he did. "Emma?" I said weakly. "Just Emma. Emma." The way he said it, carefully, as though tasting the syllables, made something flutter in my chest. "What you did was incredibly stupid." I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. Probably not the first stupid thing I've done, but perhaps the most consequential. He shifted in his chair. "Why did you do it?" I opened my eyes again, meeting his gaze. Up close, his eyes weren't simply brown as I'd first thought, but almost black, intense and unnerving. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I saw the laser sight on your chest, and I just moved. You have a child waiting for you at home, yet you risked your life for a stranger, for someone like me." There was genuine curiosity in his voice, as though I were a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Someone like you?" I echoed. His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Don't pretend you don't know who I am, what I am. Everyone at Lorenzo's knows." I swallowed hard. Yes, I knew the whispers. That Dante Russo ran the city's most powerful criminal organization. That people who crossed him disappeared. That the police looked the other way when his name came up. But in that moment in the parking lot, I hadn't seen the feared Mafia boss. I'd seen a man with a gun pointed at his heart. "I didn't think," I admitted. "I just didn't want to watch someone die." He studied me for a long moment, his expression inscrutable. Most people would have hidden, would have minded their own business. I'm not most people. That earned me the ghost of a real smile. There and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Clearly not. He stood, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from his shirt. Rest. The doctor will check on you soon. As he moved toward the door, a sudden panic gripped me. Wait. What happens now? When can I go home? My daughter. Russo paused, looking back at me over his shoulder. Now you heal. As for your daughter, something shifted in his expression. You took a bullet meant for me, Emma Walker. That creates a debt that cannot be easily repaid or forgotten. Your daughter will be cared for until you're well enough to return to her. Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving only the lingering scent of his cologne and the unsettling weight of his words. A debt that cannot be forgotten. I didn't know much about men like Dante Russo, but I knew enough to understand that his debts, whether owed or owned, were dangerous things. I sank back against the pillows, my mind racing despite the drugs pulling me towards sleep. I'd survived the bullet, but I had a sinking feeling that the real danger was just beginning. 3 days passed in a haze of medication, examinations, and fitful sleep. The private room became my world. Elegant prison or protective sanctuary, I couldn't decide which. Doctors came and went, speaking in hushed tones. Nurses checked my vitals with practiced efficiency, their eyes never quite meeting mine. No one answered my questions about when I could leave. I received daily updates about Lily. She was happy, well-fed, enjoying cartoons with Mrs. Patel. They even sent photos to the tablet that mysteriously appeared on my bedside table. My daughter's smiling face, untroubled and bright, eased my anxiety, but sharpened my determination to return to her. Dante Russo didn't visit again, but his presence lingered in every luxury that surrounded me: the silk pajamas someone had provided, the gourmet meals served on fine china, the fresh flowers delivered each morning, expensive tokens that felt more like markers of ownership than gestures of gratitude. On the 4th morning, as sunlight streamed through the large windows, the door opened to reveal not another white-coated doctor, but a woman I'd never seen before. Tall and immaculately dressed in a tailored pantsuit, she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to authority. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe knot, emphasizing sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes. Ms. Walker. Her voice was cool, professional. I'm Diana Vega, Mr. Russo's personal assistant. I straightened against the pillows, suddenly conscious of my disheveled appearance. Have you brought news about when I can go home? She placed a leather portfolio on the foot of my bed. The doctor has cleared you for discharge, provided you follow a strict recovery regimen. Her gaze flicked briefly to my bandaged shoulder. Mr. Russo has arranged accommodations for you and your daughter. Accommodations? I frowned. I have an apartment. A 4th-floor walk-up with faulty heating in a neighborhood with one of the highest crime rates in the city. She stated this as fact, without judgment. Not ideal for your recovery or your daughter's well-being. The casual mention of my living situation, details I'd never shared with anyone at Lorenzo's, sent a chill down my spine. You've been investigating me. Diana's expression didn't change. Mr. Russo is thorough about those in his debt. She opened the portfolio, revealing documents arranged in precise order. Your apartment lease has been paid through the end of the year. Your personal belongings and your daughter's things have been packed and moved to a secure location. Anger flared through me, burning away the fog of medication. You had no right. Your neighbor, Mrs. Patel, supervised the packing process. Diana continued as if I hadn't spoken. Nothing was left behind or damaged. Your daughter selected which toys to bring. She slid a photograph across the bed. Lily smiling, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, standing beside Mrs. Patel in what looked like an expensive foyer. My anger faltered at the sight of my daughter looking so happy, so untroubled. Where is she now? At your new temporary residence, settling in. Diana removed another document from the portfolio. This details your medical leave from Lorenzo's. Fully paid, of course. And the timeline for your physical therapy. My head spun with the implications. In just 4 days, Dante Russo had completely rearranged my life without my knowledge or consent. I should have been outraged, terrified even. Instead, beneath the indignation, I felt something dangerously close to relief. The constant struggle of making ends meet, of juggling work and Lily's medical appointments, of choosing between electricity and proper food, suddenly paused. "What does he want from me?" I finally asked, the question that had been haunting me since I woke in this luxurious room. For the first time, Diana's professional mask slipped, revealing something like genuine puzzlement. "That's the curious thing, Ms. Walker. In my 15 years working for Mr. Russo, I've never seen him react this way to—" She hesitated. "To someone like you. Someone like me? Ordinary." The word wasn't delivered with cruelty, just stark assessment. "Mr. Russo moves in exclusive circles. His associates are powerful, connected. Yet here you are, a single mother working as a waitress, commanding his personal attention." Her words stung, but I couldn't deny their truth. I was nobody, invisible to people like Dante Russo under normal circumstances. "I saved his life," I pointed out. "Many have done services for Mr. Russo. Few receive this level of consideration." Diana closed her portfolio with a decisive snap. "A car will arrive in 1 hour to transport you to the new residence. Mr. Russo will visit this evening to ensure you're settled." With that, she turned to leave, pausing at the door. "One piece of advice, Ms. Walker. Whatever you did to capture Mr. Russo's interest, be careful. His attention can be as dangerous as his indifference." After she left, a nurse arrived with discharge paperwork and instructions for wound care. An hour later, I was seated in the back of a sleek black SUV with tinted windows, dressed in clothes I didn't recognize, but that somehow fit perfectly. Soft jeans, a loose-fitting blouse that accommodated my bandaged shoulder, and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The driver, a broad-shouldered man who introduced himself only as Marcus, remained silent throughout the journey, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the overcast day. Through the windows, I watched the city transform, gritty neighborhoods giving way to tree-lined streets, dilapidated buildings replaced by stately brownstones and modern high-rises. We stopped before a towering glass building in what I recognized as the most exclusive district downtown. Marcus opened my door and offered his arm for support as I stepped out, momentarily dizzy from the medication and the overwhelming circumstances. The lobby gleamed with marble and polished brass, staffed by uniformed attendants who nodded respectfully as Marcus guided me to a private elevator. He inserted a keycard, and we ascended swiftly to the top floor. My ears popped with the rapid change in altitude. "Mr. Russo owns the entire penthouse level," Marcus explained, breaking his silence. "Your accommodations are in the East Wing." The elevator opened directly into a foyer that was larger than my entire apartment. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating hardwood floors and elegant furnishings that looked like they belonged in a magazine. "Mommy!" The familiar voice sent my heart soaring. Lily came running from an adjoining room, her dark curls bouncing, face alight with excitement. I dropped awkwardly to one knee, mindful of my injured shoulder, and caught her with my good arm as she barreled into me. "I missed you so much, sweetheart," I whispered, breathing in her familiar scent, now mingled with what smelled like expensive shampoo. "We're living in a castle, Mommy." Lily pulled back, her brown eyes wide with wonder. "I have a princess bed and a room just for toys, and Mr. Bear has his own tiny bed, too." Over her head, I noticed Mrs. Patel emerging from the same room, her round face creased with both worry and relief. "Emma, thank goodness." She hurried over, clasping my free hand. "How are you feeling, Beta? We've been so worried." "I'm okay," I assured her, struggling to reconcile my elderly neighbor with this palatial setting. "Thank you for taking care of Lily. They've been very kind," Mrs. Patel said, lowering her voice. "But—" Her eyes darted to Marcus, who had retreated to a discreet distance but remained within eyesight. "This situation is very unusual, Emma." Before I could respond, Lily tugged at my sweater. "Come see my room, Mommy. It has stars on the ceiling that glow in the dark." I allowed her to lead me through the apartment, trying to mask my shock at each new revelation of luxury. Lily's room was a child's fantasy. A canopied bed, walls painted with a whimsical forest scene, shelves filled with books and toys I'd never been able to afford. My own suite connected to hers via a shared sitting room and featured a king-sized bed, a bathroom larger than our old living room, and a walk-in closet, already filled with clothing in my size. Mrs. Patel departed after extracting a promise that I would call her daily, her worried eyes communicating concerns she wouldn't voice in front of Lily. Marcus informed me that dinner would be served at 6 and that Mr. Russo would arrive at 7, then withdrew to what I assumed was a security post near the elevator. The remainder of the afternoon passed in a surreal blur as I tried to maintain normalcy for Lily's sake. We explored our new temporary home, as I carefully termed it, played with her new toys, and read from the extensive children's library. If she noticed my distraction, or the tension I couldn't fully hide, she didn't comment. After Lily's bath, in a tub with jets that delighted her to no end, we shared dinner delivered by silent staff members who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The food was exquisite, though I barely tasted it, anxiety mounting as the clock ticked toward 7. I just tucked Lily into her new princess bed when I heard the elevator doors open in the distant foyer. My heart stuttered, then raced. I kissed my daughter's forehead, promised to check on her later, and closed her door, leaving it cracked just enough to hear if she called for me. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed down my clothes. I'd changed into a simple blue dress I found in the closet, one of the few options that didn't seem ridiculously formal, and moved toward the main living area. Dante Russo stood by the windows, silhouetted against the city lights spread below like fallen stars. He'd turned at the sound of my approach, his dark gaze sweeping over me in a single assessing glance. "You look better," he said by way of greeting. "Amazing what not being shot can do for one's appearance," I replied, surprising myself with the sarcasm that slipped through my nervousness. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Sense of humor intact. Good. He gestured to the sitting area. "Please, sit. Your shoulder must still be painful." I perched on the edge of a leather armchair, while he remained standing, moving to pour 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. When he offered one to me, I shook my head. "Painkillers," I explained. "Ah." He set 1 glass aside and took a seat opposite me, loosening his tie slightly, the only concession to informality in his otherwise impeccable appearance. "How do you find the accommodations?" "Excessive," I said honestly. "Lily thinks we're in a fairy tale castle." "Children adapt quickly." He took a sip of his drink. "Adults, less so. You have questions." It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. "Why are we here? What happens next? When can we go home?" "You're here because it's safe," he replied, each word measured. "What happens next depends partly on you. As for going home," he set his glass down, "that may be complicated." "Complicated how?" I leaned forward. "Look, Mr. Russo," "Dante," he corrected. "I appreciate the medical care, really. But I didn't save your life to become whatever this is." I gestured around the opulent apartment. "I have a life, a job, a daughter who needs stability, a life of constant struggle," he countered, his voice hardening slightly. "A job that barely covers your bills. A daughter with medical needs you can't fully meet." The accuracy of his assessment felt like a slap. "You've been investigating me thoroughly." He didn't bother denying it. "Emma Walker, 32. Widowed when your husband James died in a construction accident 3 years ago. Insurance payout barely covered the funeral. Daughter Lily, 4 years old, diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last year. Medical bills exceeding $40,000, most on payment plans you can't realistically maintain. 2 jobs, mornings at a daycare center, evenings at Lorenzo's. 90-hour work weeks that still leave you choosing between electricity and groceries some months." Each word dug into me like a knife, exposing vulnerabilities I worked hard to conceal. "Stop," I whispered. To my surprise, he did. His expression shifted, something almost like regret crossing his features. "Forgive me. That was unnecessary." I blinked back the threat of tears, determined not to break down in front of him. "What do you want from me? Really?" Dante studied me for a long moment, his dark eyes unreadable. "The men who attacked me in that parking lot were sent by Victor Kane. Have you heard that name?" The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. "No." "He controls the west side of the city. We've maintained an uneasy truce for years, but recently he's become ambitious." Dante's voice remained calm, but I sensed the danger beneath the words. The attempt on my life was bold, public. It sends a message. What does this have to do with me? You witnessed the attack. In their eyes, that makes you a loose end. He leaned forward slightly. More importantly, you intervened. You saved my life at risk to your own. In our world, that creates a complicated situation. Cold fear trickled down my spine. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying that your act has aligned you with me in ways you couldn't have anticipated. Dante's gaze was intense, unwavering. Victor's people would target you to get to me, to prove they can reach anyone connected to me. We're not connected, I protested weakly. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. We became connected the moment you took that bullet, Emma, and now your safety, and your daughter's, depends on that connection being acknowledged and respected. I sat back, trying to process the implications. So this, I gestured at the apartment, is protection. Among other things. He rose smoothly, moving to stand by the windows again. I protect what's mine, Emma. Always. The possessive word sent an unexpected shiver through me, half fear, half something I didn't want to examine too closely. I'm not yours. He turned, the city lights casting half his face in shadow. Perhaps not, but you're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. The alternative is unacceptable. Morning light streamed through curtains I'd forgotten to close, rousing me from fitful sleep. For a disorienting moment, I didn't recognize my surroundings. The king-sized bed with silk sheets, the panoramic view of the city sprawled beneath a cloudless sky. Then, reality crashed back. The shooting, the hospital, Dante Russo's unexpected intervention in my life. I gingerly tested my shoulder, finding the pain duller today. More of an insistent throb than the sharp agony of previous days. Small victories. The digital clock on the bedside table read 7:15 a.m. Lily would be awake soon, if she wasn't already. My daughter was an early riser. Always had been. Eager to greet each day with the boundless enthusiasm only children possess. As if summoned by my thoughts, a soft knock came at the door connecting my room to hers. Mommy? Are you awake? Her small voice carried through the wood. Come in, sweetheart, I called, pushing myself to a sitting position. The door cracked open, and Lily peeked in, her dark curls wild from sleep, clutching Mr. Bear to her chest. Seeing me awake, she broke into a sunshine smile and scrambled onto the bed beside me, careful of my injured shoulder in a way that broke my heart. No 4-year-old should have to be so mindful of an adult's pain. Did you sleep well in your princess bed? I asked, smoothing her hair with my good hand. Mr. Bear had bad dreams, she confided seriously, but I told him the stars would protect us. That was very brave of you. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of her. Are you hungry? Should we see about breakfast? Before she could answer, another knock came, this one at the main door to my suite. After ensuring I was decent in the silk pajamas I'd found in the closet, I called, Come in. A young woman entered, carrying a tray laden with food. She was perhaps in her mid-20s, with a neat ponytail and a professional demeanor. Good morning, Ms. Walker, Miss Lily. I'm Sophie, the household manager. I've brought your breakfast and your medication schedule. She set the tray on a small table near the window, then straightened, hands clasped before her. Mr. Russo asked me to inform you that a children's tutor will arrive at 10 to assess Lily's educational needs. A tutor? I echoed, startled. She's 4, not 14. Mr. Russo believes early education is crucial. Sophie's tone remained pleasant but firm. He's also arranged for Dr. Myers to visit this afternoon to check your wound and adjust your physical therapy plan. My irritation flared. More decisions made without consulting me. More arrangements I hadn't requested. Does Mr. Russo always manage other people's lives so thoroughly? Something like sympathy flickered in Sophie's eyes. Mr. Russo is attentive to details, especially regarding those under his protection. She moved toward the door, pausing before exiting. There's a house phone by your bed if you need anything. I'm extension 102. Security is 100, always staffed. Your physical therapist will arrive at 2. After she left, Lily and I shared the breakfast. Fresh fruit, pastries still warm from the oven, Eggs prepared exactly how I like them. Another detail Dante Russo had somehow learned about me. "Is this our home now?" Lily asked, nibbling a strawberry, her legs swinging beneath her chair. I hesitated, unsure how to explain our situation in terms a 4-year-old could understand. "It's a special place we're staying for a while Mommy's shoulder gets better." "Because of the bad men?" She looked up at me with innocent eyes that saw too much. My blood ran cold. "What bad men, sweetheart?" "Mrs. Patel said bad men hurt you. But Mr. Dante's keeping us safe now." She said this matter-of-factly, returning her attention to her breakfast. "Mr. Dante." The casual familiarity made my stomach knot. "Have you met Mr. Dante, Lily?" She nodded enthusiastically. "He came to see me when you were sleeping in the hospital. He brought Mr. Bear his tiny bed and said you were very brave. He said I'm brave too, just like you." The revelation that Dante had visited my daughter without my knowledge sent a spike of anger through me. What right did he have to insert himself into her life, to win her trust while I lay unconscious? The morning passed in a whirlwind of activity I had little control over. The tutor, a kind but firm woman named Ms. Chen, arrived precisely at 10, armed with educational games and assessment tools. She worked with Lily in the apartment study for an hour while I watched from the doorway, torn between appreciation for her obvious skill and resentment at the intrusion. After the tutor left, promising to return with a customized learning plan, I received a call from Mrs. Patel, checking in as promised. I tried to sound reassuring, though I could hear the worry in her voice when she asked how long this arrangement would continue. The truth was, I had no idea. Lunch was delivered, followed by the doctor, who pronounced my wound healing well, but insisted on strict limitations for another 2 weeks. The physical therapist arrived next, putting me through gentle exercises that left me exhausted, but determined to regain my strength. The sooner I healed, the sooner I could take back control of my life. By early evening, I'd toured the entire east wing of the penthouse, discovering security cameras in the hallways and multiple guards stationed discreetly throughout the floor. Our gilded cage was indeed well protected. After dinner and Lily's bedtime routine, the one normal part of this surreal day, I found myself restless, confined by luxury and uncertainty. I ventured into the main living area, intending to look through the bookshelves for something to distract me. "You should be resting." The deep voice startled me. Dante Russo emerged from the shadowed corner of the room, where he'd been sitting silently. How long had he been there, watching? "Contrary to what you might believe," I said, hiding my surprise behind sarcasm. "I don't actually require supervision for every moment of my day. Evidence suggests otherwise." He approached, his movements fluid and controlled. Tonight, he'd forsaken his suit jacket, wearing only a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, exposing strong forearms marked with intricate tattoos that disappeared beneath the fabric. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. The physical therapist reported you exceeded his recommended exercises." Of course he knew that. Was there anything in this controlled environment he didn't monitor? "I need to get stronger," I countered. "For Lily." "For escape, you mean?" His assessment was blunt, perceptive. "You're planning how quickly you can take your daughter and leave." I didn't deny it. "Can you blame me? I didn't ask for any of this." "No," he acknowledged, moving to the bar cart to pour himself a drink. "You didn't ask to be shot either, yet here we are." "You still haven't told me how long this arrangement will last," I pressed. He took his time answering, swirling amber liquid in a crystal glass. "That depends on several factors. Victor Kane's movements, your recovery, security assessments. My wishes don't factor into the equation?" I moved closer, emboldened by frustration. "You can't just keep us here indefinitely." Dante turned, his dark eyes meeting mine. "I'm not keeping you prisoner, Emma. I'm keeping you alive." He set his glass down, untouched. "Do you know what would happen if you returned to your apartment tomorrow? How long you'd survive?" The bluntness of the question chilled me. They can't possibly care that much about a waitress who witnessed a failed hit. They care about the waitress who saved my life. He corrected. The waitress I personally arranged medical care for. The waitress whose daughter I've now visibly protected. In their eyes, you've become valuable, either as a target or as leverage. I never asked to be valuable to you, I whispered. Something flickered in his expression, a brief crack in his composure. Yet you are. The simple admission hung between us, loaded with implications neither of us seemed ready to address. You met Lily, I said instead, without telling me. Yes. He didn't attempt to justify it. Why? To ensure she was being properly cared for. To see if she resembled you. His gaze remained steady. She has your eyes. Your determination. The observation, so personal and unexpected, knocked me off balance. Don't use my daughter to manipulate me. I'm stating facts, not manipulating. He moved toward the windows, his profile sharp against the city lights. You should know that Victor's people have been watching Lorenzo's. They've been asking questions about you. Fear tightened around my throat. What kinds of questions? Where you live? Your routines? Your daughter? He turned back to face me. 3 of his men entered your old apartment building yesterday. They left disappointed. The casual way he delivered this terrifying information made it somehow worse. You're saying they came for us. I'm saying they came for leverage. Dante's voice hardened. And they'll keep looking unless they're convinced that harming you would be more dangerous than leaving you alone. How do you convince them of that? I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. By making it clear you're under my personal protection. He moved closer, stopping an arm's length away. By making them understand that you're not merely a witness or an employee, but someone whose safety I consider essential. Essential, I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue, like a possession, like someone I owe a life debt to. He corrected, something flashing in his eyes that might have been anger. Do you think I take such debts lightly? Do you think I've forgotten for one moment that you stepped in front of a bullet meant for me? I didn't do it to put you in my debt. Then why did you do it? He demanded, closing the remaining distance between us. Why did a single mother with a child who depends on her risk everything for a man she barely knew? A man whose reputation should have sent her running in the opposite direction. The question had haunted me since that night in the rain. Why had I acted so recklessly, so contrary to every survival instinct? I had no satisfying answer. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely audible. It made no sense then. It makes no sense now. Dante studied me, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. Perhaps some actions defy logical explanation. His hand lifted, hesitating near my face before dropping back to his side. You should rest. Tomorrow, if you feel up to it, I'd like you to meet someone who might help clarify your situation. More of your people making decisions about my life? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Someone who chose a similar path, he said cryptically. Someone who might help you understand what comes next. Before I could press for details, a phone rang. Not the house phone, but a cell phone in his pocket. Dante checked the screen, his expression darkening. I have to take this. We'll continue our conversation tomorrow. He answered the call as he moved toward the elevator, his voice dropping to a low murmur I couldn't make out. Just before the doors closed, he looked back at me, his gaze intense and unreadable. I was left alone in the vast living room, surrounded by luxury that felt increasingly like confinement, wondering what new complication tomorrow would bring. Morning arrived with unexpected visitors. I was helping Lily with breakfast when Sophie appeared, her professional demeanor slightly strained. Ms. Walker, Mr. Russo sends his apologies, but your meeting has been moved forward. Mrs. Castillo will be arriving in 30 minutes. Mrs. Castillo? I repeated, wiping jam from Lily's chin. Is this the person he mentioned last night? Sophie nodded. Elena Castillo. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. She holds a unique position in Mr. Russo's organization. Before I could press for details, Sophie turned to Lily with a bright smile. Miss Lily, Ms. Chen has prepared a special art project for you this morning. Would you like to see? My daughter's eyes lit up. Can I paint? Absolutely. There's an easel set up in the study. Sophie offered her hand, which Lily took eagerly. She glanced back at me. Mrs. Castillo usually prefers private conversations. I can supervise Lily if you'd like. The subtle orchestration of my day, of my life, grated on my nerves, but I nodded. Thank you. After cleaning up and changing into a simple blue dress I found in the closet, another item that fit perfectly, I paced the living room, anxiety mounting with each minute. Who was this Elena Castillo? What unique position did she hold in Dante's criminal empire, and why did he think she could clarify my situation? The elevator chimed precisely 30 minutes after Sophie's announcement. I straightened my shoulders, wincing slightly at the pull of healing tissue, and turned to face my mysterious visitor. Elena Castillo was not what I expected. In my mind, I'd conjured someone hard-edged and intimidating, draped in designer clothes and flashy jewelry. Instead, a woman in her mid-40s entered, dressed in an understated gray suit, her dark hair streaked with elegant silver at the temples. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her intelligent eyes assessing me without judgment. Emma Walker. Her voice held a slight accent, musical and warm. I'm Elena Castillo. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I'm not sure I had much choice, I replied honestly. A smile touched her lips. Dante hasn't changed his methods, I see. She moved into the living room with the easy familiarity of someone who'd been there before. May we sit? I find conversations go better when both parties are comfortable. I gestured to the seating area, watching as she selected an armchair, with a clear view of both the elevator and the hallway leading to the bedrooms, a position that struck me as deliberately tactical. Sophie mentioned you hold a unique position in Dante's organization, I said once we were seated. What exactly does that mean? Elena studied me for a moment before answering. Officially, I manage several legitimate businesses within the Russo group. Unofficially, she paused. I suppose you could say I'm a translator of sorts, helping people navigate transitions they never expected to make. And what transition am I supposedly making? That depends entirely on you. She crossed her legs elegantly. Dante told me what happened in that parking lot. Your actions were extraordinary. So everyone keeps telling me, I said, frustration seeping into my voice. But no one will tell me what happens next. How long Lily and I stay here, when our lives return to normal. Normal. Elena repeated the word with a slight smile. I remember seeking that myself once. 17 years ago, I was a prosecutor with the district attorney's office, building a case against one of Dante's competitors. I received threats, standard intimidation tactics, but ignored them. Then one night someone broke into my home. The shift in conversation caught me off guard. What happened? Dante happened. She traced a finger along the arm of her chair. His men intercepted the attackers. One died in my living room. I still remember the blood on my carpet. She said this matter-of-factly, without drama. Like you, I suddenly found myself under Dante Russo's protection, with all the complications that entails. You were a prosecutor, I said slowly, trying to process this revelation. Working against people like him, and now you work for him? With him, she corrected gently. Life rarely gives us clean, simple choices, Emma. Sometimes we must navigate the gray areas between what we planned and what becomes necessary. I leaned forward, searching her face. Are you here to convince me to work for Dante too? Because I'm a waitress with no valuable skills to offer a criminal organization. Elena's laugh was unexpectedly warm. Dante doesn't need another employee. He has plenty of those. She sobered. I'm here because he asked me to help you understand what's happening from someone who's been in a similar position. And what is happening exactly? You've caught Dante Russo's attention in a way few ever do. Her gaze was direct, unflinching. When I met him, I thought I understood power. I'd seen it in courtrooms, in the political maneuverings of my colleagues. But Dante operates on a different level. His power is primal, absolute within his sphere, and he wields it according to a code most outsiders never comprehend. What code? I asked, despite myself. Loyalty above all, protection of what's his, and debts, always repaid, whether owed or owned. She leaned back slightly. You saved his life, Emma. In his world, that creates an unbreakable bond. He now considers your safety his personal responsibility. For how long? I pressed. Until the threat passes, or until... She paused. Until what? Until the nature of the connection changes. Elena's expression softened with something like sympathy. Has he told you about his wife? The abrupt question stunned me. His wife? No. Maria died 8 years ago. Cancer. Elena's voice gentled. Since then, Dante has been solitary, focused entirely on business and maintaining order in his territories. Until now, my mouth went dry. If you're suggesting— I'm not suggesting anything, she interrupted smoothly. I'm simply providing context. Dante's interest in you is unusual. Your presence in this apartment, even more so. This is his personal residence, not a safe house. The revelation sent a jolt through me. I'd assumed we were in some property he maintained for situations like this, not his actual home. Why would he bring us here? That's a question only he can answer. Elena stood, smoothing her immaculate suit. But I can tell you this, Dante Russo doesn't act without purpose. And he never does anything halfway. If he's inserted himself into your life this completely, he has reasons beyond repaying a debt. My mind reeled, trying to process the implications. What am I supposed to do with this information? Use it to make informed decisions. She moved toward me, placing a business card on the coffee table between us. My personal number. If you need anything, advice, resources, a friendly ear, call me. Day or night. I stared at the simple white card. Why would you help me? Elena's smile held genuine warmth. Because 17 years ago I was terrified, angry, and convinced my life was over when Dante Russo stepped into it. Today I have security, purpose, and freedoms I never imagined possible. She paused at the edge of the seating area. Just remember, the world he operates in plays by different rules. Learn them quickly, or they'll overwhelm you. With that cryptic advice, she departed, leaving me more confused than before. I sat motionless for several minutes, turning her words over in my mind, especially her revelation about this being Dante's personal home. The thought that he had brought my daughter and me into his private space, rather than some anonymous safe house, shifted something in my understanding of the situation. I was still sitting there when Sophie returned with Lily, who proudly displayed a colorful painting of what might have been a castle, or possibly a very ambitious cat. It was hard to tell with 4-year-old art. I praised her creativity, pushing my troubled thoughts aside to focus on her excitement. The remainder of the morning passed in domestic routine, as domestic as life could be in a penthouse with security guards and household staff. After lunch, during Lily's nap time, I found myself drawn to the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living area, staring out at the city sprawled below. Your meeting with Elena went well? The now familiar voice came from behind me. I turned to find Dante entering from the elevator, looking slightly less formal than usual in a charcoal suit without a tie, the top button of his shirt undone. Despite this concession to casualness, he still radiated authority and controlled power. She's an interesting woman, I said neutrally. Former prosecutor turned whatever she is now. She's my consigliere, advisor. He moved to stand beside me at the window, leaving a careful distance between us. And yes, she's interesting. Like you, I turned to face him directly. This is your home, not a safe house. If my direct statement surprised him, he didn't show it. Yes. Why bring us here? Why not some anonymous location your enemies wouldn't immediately associate with you? Because this is the most secure property I control, he answered simply. The entire building has my security. Every entrance, every elevator, every stairwell. No one enters without my knowledge. But it makes us more significant, I argued. If your enemies know we're staying in your personal residence, they already believe you're significant. He interrupted. The moment I brought you to my private medical facility, the moment I moved your daughter to safety, those actions sent a message. Housing you here merely reinforces it. What message? His dark eyes held mine, that anyone who harms you answers directly to me. Something in his tone sent a shiver down my spine. Not fear, exactly, but awareness of the dangerous man before me. A man who commanded power I could barely comprehend. Elena mentioned your wife, I said, watching his expression carefully. I'm sorry for your loss. A shadow crossed his features, brief but unmistakable. Maria was ill for a long time. Her passing was expected, if never accepted. She also implied that your interest in me goes beyond repaying a debt. I forced myself to maintain eye contact, needing to understand. Is that true? Dante was silent for a long moment, his gaze intense. Would it matter if it was? Of course it would matter, I said, frustration breaking through. I've been shot, uprooted from my home, placed under what amounts to protective custody. All because I made a split-second decision to save a stranger's life. Now that stranger is micromanaging my existence, providing tutors for my daughter, arranging my medical care, and apparently harboring some interest in me beyond obligation. So yes, it matters. To my surprise, a slight smile touched his lips. You're remarkably direct for someone in your position. My position being what exactly? Under the protection of a man, most people fear too much to question. His voice remained calm, almost appreciative. I've never been very good at fear, I admitted. Caution, maybe. Self-preservation occasionally. But fear just makes me angry. I've noticed. Dante moved closer, the distance between us shrinking to mere inches. To answer your question, yes, my interest in you extends beyond obligation. You intrigue me, Emma Walker. You act on instinct rather than calculation. You challenge me rather than defer. You saved my life without thought of reward or consequence. My heart hammered against my ribs as he continued, his voice dropping lower. In my world, people are predictable. They act out of greed, fear, ambition, or self-preservation. You don't fit those patterns. He reached out slowly, giving me time to withdraw if I chose, and touched a strand of hair that had fallen across my cheek, tucking it gently behind my ear. And that makes you remarkable. The simple touch sent warmth cascading through me, a reaction I hadn't anticipated and wasn't prepared to examine. I stepped back slightly, creating space to think. What happens now? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Dante accepted my withdrawal without comment. Now, you continue to heal. Lily continues her lessons, and tonight, if you're willing, you join me for dinner. Just the two of us. No talk of debts or danger or obligations. Just dinner? I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. Just dinner, he confirmed. A chance to talk as people, not as savior and saved. I should have refused. Every rational part of me screamed that getting closer to Dante Russo could only complicate an already impossible situation. Yet something else, something reckless and curious, made me nod. Dinner, I agreed quietly. But I need to know that Lily will be safe while we're talking. Sophie will stay with her. The security team will be at full complement. His expression softened slightly. I would never leave your daughter unprotected, Emma. Surely you know that by now. And the strangest thing was, I did know it. Whatever else Dante Russo might be, criminal, killer, man of dangerous power, I believed absolutely in his commitment to keeping Lily safe. It was the one certainty in my newly uncertain world. Dinner with Dante Russo was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd expected a formal affair in a grand dining room, surrounded by staff and security. Another display of power and wealth. Instead, I found myself on the penthouse's private terrace as the sun set, casting the city in hues of gold and amber. A small table had been set with simple elegance, fine china, crystal glasses, and a centerpiece of fresh flowers that perfumed the evening air. Dante himself looked different, dressed in dark trousers and a gray cashmere sweater that softened his usual imposing presence. He'd been waiting when I emerged from my room, having spent far too long debating what to wear from the closet full of clothes I hadn't chosen. I'd settled on a simple navy dress, elegant but not overly formal. You look beautiful, he said simply as I approached. Thank you, I replied, oddly flustered. The dress was in the closet, I know. A hint of amusement touched his eyes. Diana selected the wardrobe based on your sizes and what she observed of your preferences. She has an eye for such things. The reminder of how thoroughly they'd investigated my life dampened the momentary warmth I'd felt. Is there anything about me you don't know? Dante pulled out my chair, waiting until I was seated before taking his own. Many things, I'm sure. The facts of your life are not the same as knowing you, Emma. A server appeared, seemingly from nowhere, to pour wine and present the first course, a delicate seafood appetizer. As soon as the food was served, Dante nodded once, and the server disappeared, leaving us alone on the terrace. You promised no talk of debts or danger tonight, I reminded him, picking up my fork with deliberate casualness. What shall we discuss instead? Whatever you wish. He took a sip of wine, watching me over the rim of his glass. Though I admit, I'm curious about what led you to Lorenzo's. You have an education. 2 years at City College before you left to support your mother during her illness. You could have pursued other paths. I shouldn't have been surprised that he knew even this. My abbreviated college career, my mother's long battle with the same disease that would later claim my husband. Yet somehow, his interest in these details of my past felt different from the clinical investigation that had cataloged my present circumstances. Lorenzo's has flexible hours, I explained, and the tips are decent when business is good. After James died and Lily's medical bills started piling up, I needed something that would work around her schedule and the daycare job. You've been carrying a heavy burden alone, he observed, his tone free of pity, just quiet acknowledgement. I shrugged my good shoulder. Lots of people do. At least I had Mrs. Patel to help with Lily when shifts ran long. Yet you never asked for assistance. No social services, no family to turn to. He studied me with genuine curiosity. Pride? Practicality, I corrected. Social services take time and paperwork. Time I didn't have between 2 jobs, and family. I trailed off, the familiar ache dulled by years of acceptance. My mother died 6 years ago. My father left when I was 10 and started a new family somewhere in Arizona. We don't speak. Dante nodded, absorbing this information. And James's family? His parents are elderly, living on fixed incomes in Florida. They send Lily birthday cards with $20 bills. I took a sip of wine, its rich flavor a stark contrast to the boxed variety I occasionally allowed myself at home. Your turn. Tell me something the great Dante Russo doesn't put in his dossiers. A smile touched his lips, a real one this time, transforming his austere features into something unexpectedly approachable. Fair enough. What would you like to know? How did you become... I gestured vaguely, encompassing the penthouse, his obvious power, the unspoken criminal empire. This? The smile faded, replaced by something more contemplative. My father was a fisherman who immigrated from Sicily with nothing but determination and the clothes on his back. He worked double shifts at the docks, saved every penny to bring his brothers over, to build something for his family. Dante's gaze grew distant. When I was 12, local thugs decided the dock workers should pay protection money. My father refused. I could guess where this story was heading. They hurt him. They killed him. Dante stated this without emotion, a fact weathered by time. Left him floating in the harbor as a message to others. The police called it gang violence and filed it away, unsolved. I'm sorry, I said softly, the words inadequate against such loss. He acknowledged my sympathy with a slight nod. My uncles took a different approach. They paid, worked harder, kept their heads down. But I saw how the system worked, who held real power, and how they used it. His eyes met mine across the table. By 16, I'd taken control of our neighborhood. By 25, half the waterfront. The rest accumulated over time. There was pride in his voice, but not boastfulness, just the matter-of-fact recounting of a path that, to him, had been necessary and logical. You built an empire on revenge, I said, not a judgment but an observation. On justice, he corrected gently. My father believed in working within the system. His death taught me that some systems are fundamentally broken. I built my own instead. The server returned, clearing our plates and bringing the main course. Perfectly prepared fish with seasonal vegetables. We ate in contemplative silence for a few moments, the city lights beginning to twinkle below us as darkness claimed the sky. Your system includes violence, I finally said, unable to ignore this fundamental truth. People fear you for a reason. Dante set down his fork, giving me his full attention. Yes, I won't insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise, but I operate by a code. I don't harm innocents. I don't deal in human trafficking or addictive drugs. I protect those under my care. His gaze intensified. The men who attacked me that night, they work for someone who has no such boundaries. Victor Kane, I recalled. Precisely. He sees my code as weakness to exploit. The attempt on my life was just the beginning. He's making moves throughout the city. disrupting the balance that's kept relative peace for years. Despite his promise of no business talk tonight, I could see the subject weighed on him. "Is that why you were at Lorenzo's that night? Something related to Victor?" A shadow crossed his features. "Yes. I received information that one of Victor's people had been seen meeting with a city councilman who dines there regularly. I wanted to observe them myself." His mouth tightened. "I didn't anticipate Victor would be bold enough to attempt an assassination in a public place. Or that a waitress would throw herself in the way," I added wryly. The tension in his expression eased. "That was unexpected, to say the least." The conversation shifted to lighter topics as dinner continued. Books we'd read, places we'd visited or hoped to. I learned that Dante had a passion for classical music, played piano, and spoke 4 languages fluently. He discovered my love of art history, abandoned when life's practicalities intervened, and my secret dream of someday taking Lily to see the great museums of Europe. By the time dessert arrived, a delicate lemon tart that melted on the tongue, I found myself relaxed in a way I hadn't been since before the shooting. Dante proved to be an attentive listener and surprisingly adept at drawing me out, his natural intensity tempered by genuine interest in my responses. "I should check on Lily," I said as we finished coffee, suddenly aware of how much time had passed. "Of course." Dante rose, extending his hand to help me from my chair. "Sophie reports she went to bed without difficulty. The excitement of painting all afternoon apparently wore her out." I accepted his hand, noticing how his fingers engulfed mine, warm and strong. "Thank you for dinner. It was not what I expected. In a good way, I hope?" His voice had softened, the evening's relaxed atmosphere still lingering between us. "Yes," I admitted. "In a good way." He didn't release my hand immediately, and I found I didn't want him to. We stood there on the moonlit terrace, the city spread below us like a carpet of stars, caught in a moment of connection I hadn't anticipated. "Emma," he began, his voice lower than before, "I want you to know." The moment shattered as the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Diana emerged, her face set in professional lines that didn't quite hide her tension. She stopped short, taking in our proximity, our still joined hands. "Forgive the interruption," she said smoothly, though her eyes lingered on our connected hands. "There's a situation that requires immediate attention." Dante released me, the transition from dinner companion to whatever role he needed to assume now happening in the space of a heartbeat. "What kind of situation?" Diana's eyes flicked to me, then back to him. "Salvatore reports movement at the riverfront property, unusual activity near Warehouse 3. I recognized a coded message when I heard one. Whatever was happening, Diana didn't want to detail it in front of me. "I should check on Lily anyway," I said, stepping back to give them privacy. Dante's expression had already shifted, the warmth of our dinner conversation replaced by something cooler, more controlled. "We'll continue our conversation another time." I nodded and moved toward the hallway leading to our rooms, but his voice stopped me before I'd gone more than a few steps. "Emma!" When I turned, his eyes held mine with quiet intensity. "Thank you for this evening. You're welcome," I replied softly, then continued down the hallway, feeling his gaze on my back until I turned the corner. I checked on Lily, finding her peacefully asleep, Mr. Bear clutched to her chest, and the star projector casting gentle constellations across her ceiling. After watching her for a few minutes, savoring the simple miracle of her existence, I returned to my own room, my mind replaying the evening's conversations. Dante Russo was not what I had expected. The man who had shared dinner with me tonight was not just the powerful, dangerous figure I'd glimpsed in the parking lot. He was complex, thoughtful, shaped by loss, and driven by his own sense of justice, however twisted that justice might appear to the outside world. More disturbingly, I found myself drawn to him in ways that had nothing to do with gratitude or obligation. The connection I'd felt on the terrace wasn't imagined. It was real, electric, and entirely inadvisable. I was still awake an hour later when I heard the elevator again. From my window, I watched as 3 black SUVs pulled away from the building, heading in different directions. In one of those vehicles I knew was Dante, attending to whatever situation had arisen. Sleep eluded me for hours as I contemplated the strange turn my life had taken, from struggling single mother to woman caught in a mafia power struggle, dining with a dangerous man who looked at me with undisguised interest. What future could possibly emerge from such a beginning? The answer came sooner than I expected. I woke to chaos. Shouting in the hallway, heavy footsteps, the sound of Lily crying. Disoriented, I stumbled from bed, wrenching open my door to find Sophie rushing toward me, my daughter in her arms. "What's happening?" I demanded, taking Lily from her. "Security breach," Sophie said tersely. "We need to move you both now." Marcus appeared behind her, weapon drawn but held low. "We have 3 minutes before the security system resets. Everything's in place." "What security breach? Where's Dante?" I clutched Lily closer as she buried her tear-streaked face against my neck. "Mr. Russo is handling it," Sophie replied, already gathering items from Lily's room. The stuffed elephant, her favorite blanket. "But you can't stay here. It's not safe." The elevator doors opened, revealing not the typical car, but what looked like a service elevator. Larger, more industrial. 2 armed men I didn't recognize stood inside, faces grim. "Ms. Walker, please," Marcus urged, his hand gentle but insistent at my elbow. "We need to go now." Something in his tone cut through my confusion. This wasn't a drill or a precaution. This was real danger. I allowed him to guide us into the elevator, Sophie following with a small bag of our belongings. As the doors closed, I heard the unmistakable sound of gunfire from somewhere in the building. "Victor's men breached the main security," Marcus explained as the elevator descended rapidly. "We have a safe extraction route planned." "Where are we going?" I asked, stroking Lily's hair as she whimpered against me. "Somewhere secure," was all he would say. "Mr. Russo's orders are explicit. Get you and Miss Lily to safety no matter what." The elevator opened into an underground parking garage I'd never seen before. A nondescript sedan waited, engine running. We were ushered inside, Lily still clinging to me like a lifeline. As we pulled away, tires squealing on concrete, I looked back at the towering building that had briefly been our home. Smoke was visible from one of the upper floors, not the penthouse level, but close. My phone, the new one that had appeared on my nightstand the day after we arrived at the penthouse, buzzed with a message. "Stay with Marcus. He'll keep you safe until I come for you. Trust no one else." The message was unsigned, but I knew it was from Dante. The simple directive made the situation's gravity hit home. This wasn't just a security precaution. It was a full-scale attack. Victor Kane had made his move, and Lily and I were caught in the middle of a war we never asked to join. As the car sped through pre-dawn streets, Lily gradually calmed, falling into exhausted sleep against my chest. I held her close, the events of the past weeks crystallizing into one stark realization. There would be no return to normal, no going back to our old life. Whatever happened next, wherever this car was taking us, my daughter and I were irrevocably entangled with Dante Russo's dangerous world. And the strangest part? Despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite everything rational telling me to run as far from Dante Russo as possible, I found myself hoping desperately that he was safe, that whatever battle was being fought back at that building, he would survive it. Because somewhere between taking a bullet for a stranger and sharing dinner on a moonlit terrace, I'd begun to care for this complicated, dangerous man in ways I couldn't explain and couldn't deny. The sedan turned onto a highway heading out of the city, the rising sun painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Ahead lay an uncertain future shaped by violence and power. Behind us, smoke rose from the place we'd briefly called home. And somewhere in between, Dante Russo fought a war that had now become mine as well.